And for more on Japan's trade deal with the US and the ongoing political uncertainty due to the LDP's upper house election defeat, we're joined by David Boling, who is Director of Japan and Asian Trade at Eurasia Group. And he's speaking to us live from Tokyo. Now, David, thanks for joining us. Let's start with Prime Minister Ishiba's position. Now, he's been denying resignation rumours despite the electoral blow this weekend. Is there a viable path forward for Mr. Ishiba, or are we already in kind of a quiet succession phase?
Thank you for having me. I would say that Prime Minister Shiba is on very shaky ground right now. That he lost the lower house last October. His coalition also performed very poorly in Tokyo local elections in June. And now we have a significant third loss. So the LDP Komeito coalition controls neither of the chambers of the parliament. And that puts him in an extraordinarily weak position. And he's a moderate within the LDP. There were already many conservatives within the LDP who did not care for Ishiba. And so they are certainly interested in pushing him out. And of course, the opposition parties are as well. So I think it's fair to say he's on very shaky ground, and we'll just have to see how things unfold in coming days.
And how does Mr. Ishiba's precarious position and also a seemingly fractured ruling party, how does that impact Japan's foreign policy direction, especially when it comes to trade and defense?
Well, I think we've seen it play out here in this trade agreement that Japan just completed with the United States. I mean, if we think back to Prime Minister Abe when he was prime minister and negotiating with President Trump in 2019, he was really negotiating from a position of strength. He controlled both houses of parliament. He had a very strong relationship with Trump. He was able to make concessions to open the Japanese agriculture market. And the agriculture cooperatives are very powerful in Japan, but he was able really to ram that through because of his political strength. Well, Ishiba is really the actual opposite. He's coming off a bad electoral loss. He's in charge of a minority government. He just doesn't have that much room to move. And as I say, in this negotiation, it's pretty clear that Trump held most of the cards. And I think that Japan recognized that the best thing to do is they need to get out of this card game and get to some sort of agreement. And the weakness of Ishiba, I think, forced them to move soon.
And in this case, what key sectors in Japan do you think are most affected by this trade deal? Who are the biggest winners and losers here?
Well, I do think that the winner here by far for Japan, and the main goal of Japan was to get the automobiles tariff reduced, right? They were looking at a 25% automobiles tariff. Japan, even though it manufactures a lot of cars in the United States right now, I think it's about 3.3 million, it still exports a lot of cars to the United States, about 1.3 or 1.4 million. So that 25% automobiles tariff is really, an existential threat to Japan's economy, and it could really be a blow. And so Japan was able to negotiate that down to 15%. I thought Trump was going to hold firm on that. Some of the things he said recently showed that he, seemed committed to keeping that at 25%. So I think that was a big win for Japan and by far the most important. Now, for Trump, Japan has made significant commitments to increase investment in the United States. And that's what he is going to champion to show that he got a good deal for American workers.
And in this case, how do you think this trade deal aligns with Japan's long-term economic strategy here? Is Tokyo trying to hedge its bets between the US and also the other major economic blocs?
Well, China is still Japan's number one trading partner, so it needs to have a productive and good economic relationship with China. But the United States is number two, and it's a close number two. And the United States is just absolutely a critical market for Japan. On top of that, of course, is the security relationship with the United States, and that's paramount for Japan. To maintain a good security relationship. What I think this agreement does more than anything is it stabilizes the alliance. the last few weeks have not been good for the U.S.-Japan alliance. It's been pretty rough, and trade frictions inevitably spill over into other areas and can affect the security relationship. I think what Tokyo can say now is, okay, we have resolved this big trade dispute with Tariff Man, tough negotiation, but we resolved it. And now we can get on to, the bigger things in the relationship. The relationship is stable. And, the U.S.-Japan relationship for Japan is by far the most important.
David, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. That's been David Boling, who is Director of Japan and Asian Trade at Eurasia Group.